Well, first of all, thank you so much for taking out your precious time joining the session about what's new in CISSP 2021. Well, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Prashant Mohan, and I have been into the information security industry for 12 years now, and I have been really fortunate to work with multiple organizations and different domains of security. So I've been gotten chance to take a flavor of every domains in security. Well, at least most of them, right? I have been working as a security architect. In my current role, I've worked into the auditing and compliance, application security, identity and access management domain, and security operations center, network security a little bit, not too much, but yeah. So this was kind of a brief overview about my industry experience. And well, I'm going to walk you through with what exactly is new in the CISSP 2021. Why exactly CISSP or ISC square per se? Go ahead and get started with the updating of the content. Now, I'm assuming if you all are here, it means you already know what exactly CISSP is, and you just want to know that what exactly is new that has been included in the examination outline for May 2021. Okay, I'm gonna assume this that we don't need to have an introduction about CISSP because probably if you're here, it means you have already seen about what exactly CISSP is all about. You have already made up your mind that you want to pursue with CISSP, and you are here to know what exactly are the things which has been introduced as a new concept. Now, what happens? IC Square, in every 3 years, they roll out a JTA, which is called as Job Task Analysis. It is being shared with the ISC Square members. So when you take up any kind of an ISC Square certification, you become an ISC Square member. Every ISC Square member has to review the job task analysis, which is provided by the ISC Square. Now, the purpose of this job task analysis is to review the current course curriculum, what is being offered, and is it in line with the current industry practices. So IC Square members who provide the feedback on during the job task analysis review that what exactly are the things which might be obsolete and might not be required any longer in order to test a candidate's intellect or in order to understand the process that a candidate goes through. Okay, and what is something which is new nowadays that is happening and IC Square has not included in their curriculum. So this is a result of getting the content update in every 3 years that keeps on happening. This is a consequence of people filling in the surveys during the job task analysis. Okay, so well, I remember in 2015 when the examination moved from 10 domains to 8 domains, and then in 2018 the new content was included, and then in 2021 as well. So in every 3 years they keep on updating the new content. Now let's see what exactly we have in the new content. Let's do a quick side-by-side comparison that how much change it is there. Well, if I just have to quantify the change, it is not much, merely 3 to 4%. And if you already have purchased the old books, right, it is still 96 to 97% relevant. All right, and it is quite evident here, you would see here. So in 2018, so the domain remains the same. There's no changes in the domains. There's no domain that has been excluded. There's no new domain which have been included. All right, so the domain remains the same. So in domain 1, security and risk management, which used to be 15%, in 2021, the security and risk management still remains 15%. There's no changes in the weightings of the examination as well. For domain 2, which was asset security, and it used to have 10% of the examination weightings, well, it is still the same, 10%. In domain 3, security architecture engineering, which used to be 13% in 2018, and it is still 13% in 2021. No changes. In domain 4, which is communications and network security, that is used to be 14%. See, communication network security has always been a huge domain. It adds up a lot of content and it has been very important as well. However, in the examination outline 2021, they have reduced the weightings of domain 4 by 1%. Okay, there's negative 1% that has been there in domain 4. Identity and access management, which used to have examination weightings of 13%, it is still 13% now. No changes in there. Same with your domain 6, security assessment and testing. There's no changes in the domain weightings. It used to be 12% in earlier, and it is 12% now. In respect to domain 7, security operation, it is also one of the huge domains that we have. It used to have the domain weightings of 13%, and it is still 13%. No changes there. Software development security, it used to have a domain weightings of 10%. Here you can see there's a growth of 1% here. This is where we have added a couple more concepts here, okay, which was not present in the earlier domains. Okay, so you would see there's not much changes in terms of inclusion of any new domains per se. There's just slight changes in the weightings. Now, what is the relevance of these weightings? It simply means out of 100 questions or 100% of the total test that you're going to get, these percentage would be the distributions of the test that you're going to get. Okay, so earlier, before in May 2021, your domain 4 used to have the 14% of the coverage in the examination. Now it has been reduced to 13%. So you just want to, from an analogy perspective, you can think about earlier, in case of like out of 100 questions, you would used to get 14 questions from domain 4. Now you're going to get 13 questions. That is just from an analogy perspective. All right, now let's see what are the new topics that have been included in the examination outline from May 2021. Domain 1. Domain 1 does not have a lot of topics. Everything that used to be there, it is still there. You don't have to worry much about it. Whatever you have already learned in domain 1, which has the maximum weightings in the examination, it is still relevant. There's just one small topic that has been included from a compliance and privacy policy requirements perspective. It has included several laws like PIPDA from Canada, and a couple of more regulations have been included. Otherwise, it doesn't have any inclusion apart from that. Domain 1 is still relevant what it used to be. Okay, moving ahead to the next slide, which I don't think has any kind of an inclusion in domain 2. So we're going to quickly move to domain 3. Now, before we start talking about domain 3, in domain 2, you would notice that there have been a couple of topics you would start noticing that they have started appearing in domain 2. Okay, honestly, they were already there. They were already there in the previous syllabus as well. It just, they were distributed somewhere else. So you would notice that there's a data lifecycle that has been added in domain 2. It was already there. It used to be there in the security operations section. So no need to worry about that if something has been changed or modified in domain 2. No bigger changes. Well, domain 3. Domain 3 is considered as one of the humongous domains in all of the 8 domains of CISSP. Well, it makes sense. It contains 5 different modules and 3 subdomains within it. Okay, so domain 3 includes the core concepts of your cryptography, core concepts of your security architecture, and core concepts of your physical security. This particular domain has the maximum addition as per the new examination outline. Let's see what exactly are there in your domain 3. Zero trust architecture. Although zero trust architecture has been there for a very long time, maybe like it's been more than a decade now when this fundamental concept was proposed, but IC Square has gained the pace, wanted to be in line with the industrial best practices, because nowadays organizations are shifting towards zero trust. So they wanted to test the knowledge of the candidates who want to understand what exactly zero trust is. And just in case if someone has been given a responsibility to implement zero trust in their respective organizations, what kind of a security controls that they need to keep in mind. Security by design. Just like zero trust, security by design is also one of the older concepts which has always been there for a very long time. It simply says we need to inbuild the security as a part of a design process. Okay, so whenever someone builds a solution, builds an application, what all are the various considerations that someone has to take during the design process that they need to keep security into the consideration. It includes various concepts. Well, some of the concepts that you're looking right now, they are actually the subparts of the security by design. Secure defaults. It is essentially one of the core requirements of a security by design, which simply says you don't trust the default credentials. Whenever you want to have any kind of a default credentials, never use it. Enforce some kind of a security controls to remove that. Fail secure. Well, this concept was there earlier, and they have tried to include as a part of your security by design process. Trust but verify. Although it contradicts with one of the core concepts of your zero trust, where you simply do not trust anything or anyone, in this, as a part of a design process, in case someone has already accessed the solution, you would want to make sure that even the trusted people needs to be verified. Keep it simple. This is one of the core fundamental principles from your architecture perspective. The simpler your design of a solution would be, the more easy it is to secure it. The more complicated the design of the solution will be, it is going to be much more difficult for us to build any kind of a security controls there. So keep it simple. Privacy by design. Well, I cannot emphasize enough in terms of the relevance from the examination perspective, and I believe it would be one of the important topics from the examinations as well. Privacy by design. Why I'm saying this? Because privacy has been considered as one of the important aspects across the globe since May 25th, 2018, when GDPR came into the picture. Awakened with implementation of the privacy and the regulatory controls that was required by the EU law. So as we want to make sure that, because similar to GDPR, you have various other privacy requirements. So we need to make sure that we implement privacy controls as a design process. It has to be proactive. It doesn't need to be reactive. We need to make sure that we consider all the sort of personal data that would be either stored, processed, or transmitted in the solution, and we need to implement all the requirements from a privacy perspective. Microservices. Microservices has been into the buzz for quite some time now, and ISC Square understood its significance and they wanted to let the candidate test on this concept. It's an interesting concept. From an architecture perspective, it is very important. Containerization. Well, as we are shifting towards clouds, the importance of the containers has been significant from the different organizations' requirements. Everybody wants to get their infrastructure or get their solutions built on top of their containers. So as you have your virtual machines, containers are your OS virtualization. It's an interesting topic and definitely an important one. Then you have edge computing. Because cloud has become a foremost requirement for a lot of organizations, how exactly we want to make sure that we increase the performance of the endpoints for the systems who are accessing these cloud services and who are geographically distributed. Edge computing is the answer to that. It is an interesting concept. High process computing. High process computing is one of the gaining popularity where you have a lot of real world problems where you want to solve some kind of complex mathematical problems or do some kind of a complex calculation in parallel, where you need abundant of processes, compute, nodes working together to solve a kind of a problem in much more effective manner. That is where you need a high process computing. Just to make it more simpler, what exactly high processing computing is? A type of a supercomputer, which is running a lot of processes in parallel to help in solving a lot of complex calculations in parallel. Quantum cryptography. Now, to my surprise, quantum cryptography has always been there even before May 2021. Quantum cryptography is one of the important concepts, and one of the practical applications of a quantum cryptography is your quantum key distribution. The quantum cryptography is not going to change the way we look at the encryption. It is just going to help in protecting the exchange of the key that we do, right? So it's an interesting topic, how exactly we merge the concept of physics of quantum mechanics and how we use that property towards the for cryptographic purposes. So, like you can see, domain 3 has a lot of inclusions for various topics and indeed the important ones. Moving ahead, we have domain 4. Domain 4, communications and network security. Domain 4 has been one of the interesting domains, and it does become a kind of a little challenging domain when person doesn't have a networking background. When someone who do not have a networking background, it comes with a lot of technical jargons, it comes with a lot of technical concepts that makes it a little difficult for a non-technical person who have not worked or who do not have a real world experience into the networks. Now, to be very honest, you don't need to have a real world experience of the networking domain in order to know things that works in domain 4 or a networks. One doesn't have to work on the routers or the switches or working on the firewalls in the real world experience in order to understand the concepts, the fundamental concepts of domain 4. Because that is the beauty of the examination in CISSP. You just have to go inch deep. You just have to have a basic understanding of everything and a lot of things, because it is inch deep and probably like 40-mile wide. Now let's see what are the core concepts which have been included in your domain 4. Software-defined WAN. 3 years ago, we had an inclusion of software-defined networking. It's not even 3 years ago. It's been there for like 5 or 6 years. The CISSP has been included with the testing the concepts of your software-defined networking, or SDN. Software-defined WAN is an extension to your software-defined networking. It is a very interesting concept and indeed an important one. Virtual extensible LAN, or VXLAN. As an organizations are switching towards your VLAN in order for multiple reasons, whether they want a VLAN for an isolation, whether they want a VLAN for some kind of creating a different subnets. As we are moving towards the cloud, it becomes more challenging for a service provider to provide the VLAN to a customers, because you have a limited capability. You only get a 12-bit of VNID, which is going to help in creating almost like 4096 VLANs. That's a limitation. So virtual extensible LAN is going to help in scalability. VXLAN is going to scale up that you can add approximately 16 million VLANs within the network. That's a wonderful concept. Then you have light fidelity, or Li-Fi. Li-Fi is a paradigm shift on your wireless fidelity, because your wireless fidelity employs the radio waves in order to transmit the signal. In Li-Fi, it uses the photon particles, which is nothing but the light. It has a significant benefits in terms of your prevention against any kind of an interception, but it does have some limitations as well, because it cannot penetrate through walls. So it comes with the limited range, that you cannot expand the range if you have multiple walls at your homes or maybe at your offices. So that becomes a challenge. Then we have Zigbee. Zigbee is one of the standards which is going to create a personal area network. If I remember correctly, it has an IEEE standard of 802.15.1, which is a standard of your personalized area network, which is going to provide a protocol on how exactly your smart appliances or any of your IoT devices that you have, they all are going to network together and interact. So that protocol is your Zigbee. All right. Moving ahead to domain 5, identity and access management. In my understanding, identity and access management is one of the most important domains in entire information security. I'm not talking only about the CISSP, because in your security, whatever you do, everything boils down to your unauthorized access. You talk about your penetration testing. You talk about cryptographic principles. You talk about network security. At the end, you are trying to protect unauthorized access to your either data or the systems or the networks, whatever the assets that you might have. And this is where your identity access management helps. Not a lot of change, but yes, we do have topics that are included? Well, pass the hash. Pass the hash is one of the security threat that is used in order to access any kind of an application or solution in an unauthorized manner without compromising a password. That's the beauty of your pass the hash. Although it is only limited to your, not limited to your, but mostly affected on the Windows system. But yes, it can be done on any of the systems. Then you have various access control attacks that happens. You have your spraying attack, credential surfing, and your couple of more attacks that have been included there. Just-in-time access. Just in time. Well, this provides the access provisioning capability in the real time. It does help any organization when they're building or establishing a zero trust architecture. Just in time do supports it in establishment of your zero trust. Then from an access control models, we had your role-based access control, attribute-based access control, mandatory access control, and so on. But there was a new inclusion which is called as risk-based access control. In the risk-based access control, your organization looks at various factors of the risk before and after provisioning any kind of a user's assets. It's a wonderful concept. Let's move to domain 6. Domain 6, it has always been a very shorter domain in terms of the content, but it includes a lot of technical concepts because it is your security testing. It talks about your audits. It talks about your conducting a security test on an application, on a network, identifying any vulnerabilities, and performing a penetration testing. One of the concepts which is very in line with your application security testing is your breach and attack simulation, commonly known as BAS. Well, this is one of the boons towards in your organizations who is going to automate the process of your, what do we consider as your red teams and the blue teams. Well, it does a job of both of them. Okay, it is going to automate the process of breach and attack. All right, moving ahead to domain 7, security operations. Security operation has a couple of new topics that are included. Well, threat intelligence and threat hunting. It is not something new in terms of your industrial best practices. It has been in the practice for a very long time. Well, IC Square wanted to test the candidates on the threat intel and the threat hunting because it is getting popular day by day. So threat hunting, threat intelligence, it's a proactive way to assess the threats from the various factors so that you can improvise your cybersecurity posture overall. That's the beauty of it. Then you have user and entity behavioral analysis, or UEBA. User and entity behavioral analysis is one of the requirements that I believe it has been inspired from the intelligence agencies across the world. So it is about understanding the normal behavior analysis. So what exactly organizations do? They create a baseline of what is normal. So for example, every single time an employee sends out the data worth like 20 MB, and one fine day it was observed that an employee is sending out the data of like 1 gigs. That is not normal. So this is how you need to identify what exactly user and entity behavior analysis is. Okay, this brings us to the very last domain, and indeed one of the most important ones, domain 8, software development security. A lot of concepts were included in domain 8 from even before May 2021, but now I have observed that they are emphasizing more on these topics. Well, which makes sense because they are more relevant. From an architecture concepts, there always has been a debate of building versus buying. What exactly would be preferred? Whether do we want to build a particular software in-house, or do we want to buy something from a vendor? Which is more preferable? And this is an ongoing debate, and most of the organization prefer to go ahead with the buying, procuring a software from outside rather than building on their own, because they want to save a lot of time, and definitely they want to have someone accountable for any, just in case if something goes wrong. Well, that is the reason IC Square wanted to have an assessment where they can test a candidate based on what kind of a security controls someone would take care of while they are acquiring a software. So security impact of your acquired software. That's an important concept. One of the subtopics within that acquired software is your COTS, commercial off the shelf. It has gained a lot of popularity because commercial off the shelf doesn't allow any kind of organization or an end user to assess the security of this product, because it is more of a black box to us. We don't know what to see for it. The vendor never tells us what kind of a security that they have included in it. Okay, so it is a COTS is a kind of a product where you cannot customize anything. It is just off the shelf, something that it will be sold. You need to use just by opening the box, and you need to use it. There's nothing that we can do much about it. That is your commercial off the shelf. Next is your security orchestration, automation, and response, or commonly referred as SOAR. SOAR is a fundamental technology that include various aspects of your orchestrating your security by collecting the feed from numerous sources like your threat intel, your SIEM. So multiple detection technology that are already there. It is going to consume the feed from there. It is going to orchestrate or oversee and analyze, automate the response as well. It's not only going to analyze it, but it is also going to automate the response as well. That is just a SOAR for you. Then we have continuous integration and continuous delivery, or referred as CI/CD. Because as we are shifting more and more towards DevOps concept, CI/CD was kind of inevitable to be excluded. So that is the reason it is important that a CISSP candidate needs to know what exactly CI/CD is. Then we have integrated development environment, or IDE. Not a very important topic. I don't think it has too much weightage from the examination perspective, to my understanding. But again, it is very important for a CISSP candidate to know what all are the different IDEs. You have Eclipse, you have Notepad++, you have PyCharm. How we can make sure that we can inbuild security within them in case someone is compiling a code or writing the code, what kind of a best practices that you can suggest, and the security of the tool itself. Well, these were the topics which were included in your CISSP examination outline, May 2021. It might look a lot. Honestly, if you go back and start reviewing it, most of them are something that you might have been already working on it, or you might have the experience that you might have worked on it, or you would come across these topics or these concepts in your day-to-day life. Okay, this brings us to a very important question. Do we have any kind of a new topics that any kind of a resource that we can use it on in order to prepare ourselves? Well, let's have a quick review at the resources. Well, CISSP Exam Outline 2021. This particular resource is your best friend. Now, I don't know why a lot of people don't give enough emphasis on this, but before you even buy any kind of a book, or before you even decide which book to buy, this should be the very first resource you would need. Your examination will be around your examination outline. Any topic which is being listed there's a high probability it will be testable. So if you want to know what is important from the examination perspective, well, this is the document you have to download. It is freely available on ISC Square website. Okay, so pick up the topic, try to map it with any of the resource that you have already purchased, and try to learn from it. Okay, recently Official Study Guide 9th edition, that is a Cybex publication by Mike Chappell, it was released. Well, I haven't got a chance to look into it, but I've heard a lot of great reviews from a lot of readers. This particular 9th edition is as per the examination outline of May 2021. Whatever the topics that we discussed or we just saw, it is included there. And I've also heard they have shortened it a little bit. Earlier 8th edition I have is around 1600 plus pages, but what I was told, the 9th edition they have reduced to 1200 some pages. Well, that's a good thing. Honestly, for me, it's a big motivation that I have to read a less content. Watch out for your instructors. The community is very small. The security fraternity is very small. And everyone is too generous to contribute towards the community. You would have a lot of people like Prab, Luke, Thor, Wenswu, you have Mad Unix, you have plenty of people out there who are contributing each day. You have your Rob Witcher, you have Adam Gordon, plenty of legends out there. They are contributing every single day. Watch out for their spaces. I mean, follow them on the social platform, follow their YouTube channels, and you would get answer to all of the questions. You don't even have to worry about it. Just in case if you don't have enough resources, well, you have everyone helping you out there. Internet is your best friend. In case if you once you have all the compiled list of every new topic that you want to learn, well, you can simply look at the basic definition or maybe some kind of a video on YouTube over the internet, and it is going to teach you a lot. Because for a CISSP, you don't have to be a master of any kind of a topic. You just have to be, what do we say, like jack of all trades. That is more than enough for your CISSP examination perspective. Your work experience is going to help you a lot. Well, if I would have to appear for the CISSP exam now, and if I don't have the resources, I have worked into a lot of concepts like containers, your microservices, or a few other concepts to call out in my real experience. So I would have utilized those experiences in order to know how exactly we need to think security into those technologies. And you don't have to worry about if you do not have any kind of a work experience on those new topics. That's perfectly fine. A candidate who has a 5 years of working experience, who are eligible for your CISSP certification, I'm assuming someone who's going to appear for the CISSP exam, they have 5 years of experience in the information security domain. They would have experience in either one or two domains, right? For someone who has like 10 plus years experience, they might be more fortunate to work in 3 domains. In order to have an experience in all the 8 domains, I don't know, it might take eternity. I don't know if in one lifetime someone can gain experience in all of the domains. It's practically not possible, but I'm not saying it is totally non-achievable. Yes, people do it, but you don't have to have all the real world experience. You can simply go back and find out the topics or the content over the internet. You can learn from it. And just in case if you want to give it a shot to Memory Palace, the 4th edition has inclusion of all the new topics. Okay? Although it shouldn't be used as a primary resource in order to learn about the new topics, well, in case if you already know it, you can go ahead and look into it for a quick review, a refresher. All right. Well, I think this is where I conclude my presentation. I'm really thankful to you all to listen to me. Well, thank you so much for your time and patience.